SexyJ, welcome to... Oh, yeah, we're on? Okay, now we are live. Welcome guys to the second ever SexyJ live stream. Hopefully, I don't know, I have grand ambitions. This will go down in the history books as like, the beginning stages of something great, hopefully. And yeah, so the content I have for you today, and as I normally do, I'll leave it really up to you guys. Whatever you guys want to learn about, I'm down to talk about it and hopefully teach you about it as well. But the content I have today roughly is the things I really wish I knew when I was in high school, when I was applying to colleges, things I found out a little bit later, which is, never too late. You guys see my shirt right now? I got into Columbia at age 31. So, it's never too late, but it would have been easier. And I would prefer you guys are taking the easier path when you can. And also that you guys are able to take the path you choose to take after knowing about all the alternatives, right? That you can pick the best one for yourself rather than picking the one that's the only one you knew about. Okay, so as you guys can see in the comments, if you have any questions or any inquiries, whatever, you can just email. So if you have just a direct question that you can ask by text, just put it into the chat. I'm looking at the chat periodically. And if you have something that's like a screenshot or something, then you can send it to the email. Or if you have a URL, you could just put it into the chat as well. All right, so let's get started. And yeah, yes sir, thank you TYZ, Ty as well. Right. Yeah, so what do I regret the most, or not regret, because I like where I am right now, I'm hoping to get to better places, but what do I wish that for you guys to know at wherever you are in your stage in your life is that we spend a lot of time listening to people who are very well intentioned and they say common sense things, but listening to the common sense doesn't make you special. Even that sounds like common sense, right? But listening to common sense doesn't make you special. And that's important because at the end of the day, as you guys know, if you've been watching my videos or if you're just aware of what's going on in the American education system, everything is a competition. You have to be special if you want to get into college, especially if you are one of the people, like the regular people. You weren't born into the family that's been donating to Harvard for generations and you haven't had the hookup since birth of like coaching and like tutoring and like the science camps and research camps, internships. If you didn't get any of that, if you're just a regular person, how are you supposed to get into these good schools and stand out when you haven't been given anything special? Well, one way you don't do that is by listening to the common knowledge around you. So let me give you an example of that. So when I was applying to colleges, the first time, because I've been doing it many times, right? I've personally gone through the college application process approximately 3 times regular and then twice transfer, like a lot of times. So the first time I was like, well, I saw so many of my friends, right? Not my students at that time, although I did teach them how to do reading even back then. They were like, well, my parents told me to do this because they said there will be many jobs in this field later, right? Or I want to do this because I want to get a job later, okay? So if you do that, right? And if that's just what you've heard, you just went through your life living and you got that info. What does that mean? That info is just out there, right? It's literally just out there for anybody to hear. So if it's info that anybody can hear, it doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong, but it doesn't give you anything special to work with. For example, people go like, oh yeah, they told me that I should major in STEM because it's easier to get a job in STEM. Okay, not a wrong statement, but who doesn't know that, right? So kind of basing your career choices or your future aspirations off of that doesn't really do anything for you. So once you find that out, what do you need to do? You need to seek out actual experts, okay? And for some of the fields, that could be me, and well, it depends, right? If I'm honest enough to know, this is the most important thing. And I was actually at a admitted students luncheon at Columbia this Saturday, right? So like, was that yesterday? That was yesterday, right? So this speaker was giving a speech, right? And he was a Columbia graduate, and he literally went from being in prison, right, to speaking at Columbia Welcoming Luncheon because he was an award-winning scholar. I don't remember if he was a Rhodes Scholar or Truman Scholar, but one of the scholarships get recognized internationally, and there's only like 50 winners all across the nation every year. So enormous success story, right? But one of the things he said was like, you have to say, I don't know. what you don't know. You have to admit that, right? And the tricky thing about that is when you don't know anything, you don't know enough to even know that you don't know. Let me point to what I mean by that. So there are probably a lot of you who are like, yeah, but going into STEM is a good thing. For example, engineering is a very lucrative field, or it could be a rewarding field. There are many jobs in that field. Sure. What kind of engineering do you want to do? Do you want to do civil engineering, right? Or do you want to do aeronautical, right? Do you want to do chemical? What kind of engineering do you do, and why? What are the differences to the engineering schools, right? What kind of skills do you need for different disciplines of engineering? What are the job prospects in each field? And also, what kind of colleges would be more stronger or weaker in those fields? You have to know all of those things. So for instance, if I have a student and just says, I want to go into engineering, why? Because my parents said that's a good thing to do, and I don't want to be a doctor or lawyer, so engineering seems like a solid choice. Now, are there cases in which that works out? Yeah, sure, but if I do something like that, that requires so many hours on my end of trial and error. So that you just have this vague idea of engineering is good. Okay, so where do you go from there? Who are you going to talk to, right? So when you apply to colleges, you're probably going to have something like very similar to all the other kids who are applying to colleges for engineering. So I definitely don't want to do that. I definitely don't want to limit myself. This was what I wanted to get it to. The reason I don't want you guys to listen to just whatever information is right there is that you don't want to limit yourself to the careers that are famous, right? Just because a career is well known doesn't mean it's good, and vice versa. Let me give you one example. And if I had known about this early, I actually might have gone into this field myself. In fields of writing, a lot of people are like, oh, you want to be a writer, so you're just going to starve to death, right? A lot of people say that, right? You're just going to be a starving artist type. Well, oh, we have a question? Oh, no, I guess those are probably, yeah. My profile picture is very misleading. Do you mean like the logo? And Diego, as in like, can you go to Columbia? Well, yeah, there are many ways you can get into Columbia if you start prepping properly. And my profile picture, if you mean my logo, like the thing with my face on it, like over here, we are thinking of updating with the long hair at this moment, but I don't know, I like that logo. It's like, okay. Boogie's Log, we are not going to pay you for that, but thank you if you did that. Any appreciation is appreciated. Right, okay. Well, I think I look above average, but I think like that's most guys, right? Most guys, like they come out of the shower, they look in the mirror like, oh yeah, I'm pretty alright. Like you flex a little bit, you're like, you know, if I work out for like a month or two, I think I look pretty good, right? But anyway, going back to, what was I saying? Wow, I am very easily distracted. The career thing, right? So, a lot of people say that writing, you're just going to starve, right? Writing, you're just going to starve. But it's not the case, because there's a field of writing called technical writing. And I don't know if you guys have heard about it, which, I mean, if you did, that's good. That means you guys have been doing research and stuff like that, right? Technical writing is, technical writing is a type of writing called, you write about things that are technical, right? So for example, well, one of the main problems in the world, right, is that people can't read and write effectively. And that's why I teach reading, right? And that's also why I teach writing, although I don't do it as much because, you know, I like reading. So let's say you did an amazing study in science, right? You found out something that will change the world. It'll actually, I don't know, cure people's indigestion forever. Okay? That is actually pretty important. There are a lot of people suffering from that. But you're a scientist, and the way you write is in a way that only scientists can understand. But in real life, if you made a discovery, how can that actually make a difference in the world? You need to sell it so rich people will give you money so you can actually turn it into a product. How do you do that? You write it in an understandable way. So technical writing is you take stuff that is very technically advanced and you write it in a way that everybody else can understand it. That's a very difficult thing to do. But let's say like I'm into bio and I'm also good at writing. Can I possibly make a career? Yes. And actually a pretty rewarding field because like not a lot of people can do that. Really not a lot of people can do that. So if I had found out about that field in my maybe like early 20s, I think I might have gone into the field because even to me now it sounds pretty interesting. And that's one of the examples of like many careers that are out there that you might not immediately think of. But technical writing is definitely one of them. Okay. Can you get, my dates go pretty well usually, right? I'm pretty good at talking. I think it went pretty well, I hope. Yeah. But I'm trying to be optimistic. Can you get a good score if you study for a month? Can you get a good score if you study for a month? That would really depend. On if you mean like the SAT overall, okay. There are many ways you could get a good score if you study for a month. Number one, really depends on, I would have to get more details on what is the thing that you want to get better at. What is it, the reading, is it the writing, is it the math, right? What kind of background do you have? Have you at least finished up to Algebra 2 and all of those things? But yeah, it's definitely possible. But if you're studying for a month, I would probably focus a lot more on the writing and the math, because those are a lot easier to improve. Those are a lot more reliable and dependable. Because the writing and the math, if you put in the time and you learn the patterns, you could theoretically get them right the next time you see them, right? Whereas the reading is a lot harder to improve. That's why I teach it, because most people can't teach it, because it's really hard to teach, right? And even the way I teach reading, it's more like, I want you guys kind of get a database in your head, kind of a feel. Like, this is the way the college board talks, right? Like, the reading is like, what's it called? Reading is like, if you get to know a person really well, right? Then you can kind of tell when they're mad, when they're lying, when they're cranky. Even if my brother is like, yeah, I'm doing good, I can usually sense something is wrong because I know him very well. Reading is kind of like that type of approach. You're almost getting like a feel and an instinct for the test, right? So reading does definitely take more time, so I would definitely focus on writing and math if I'm having a time constraint. What are some common errors on the reading section on the SAT? Thank you, Pascal. It's a very relevant question. There's so many common errors. That's just why, if you guys have been subscribed to the channel, right, on the quick and dirty playlist, I think we have like almost 20 videos up there now, because there's so many common errors, right? And okay, so many. So number one is that you try to read the entire passage and understand it completely before doing the questions. Okay, you do need to look at a passage, you know what's going on, but you have to remember that this is a pretty much an open book exam, right? As I said in my many videos and classes. So I only need to get information from the text that's going to be relevant for my answering the questions. So a lot of people, they do this. On the SAT, for example, at least one of the questions, at least not one question, at least one of the passages is going to be pretty difficult. And that's usually the historical passage of the language from like the 1700s. So a lot of students, well, not really my students, because I tell them this is what you shouldn't do, but when they first come in, they look at a passage, they're like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about because it's written in 1700 political philosophy English, and they give up. Or, I think this might even be worse, because if you give up, at least you move on to other stuff, right? Or they read the whole thing, and they're like, I don't understand this, I'm going to keep reading until I understand it, and they waste and burn so much time on that, and you also get discouraged. So, don't do that. Besides that, there are so many little trap answers that they make, right? So, like a lot of things, these are not common mistakes, these are more like tips. So I would say that's one of them. This is the other one. Picking what is technically true in the real world instead of picking what the answer is. What I mean by that, if I ask you, let's say there's a character named Mary. What does Mary think about pizza? Right? Then the question is, Mary thinks pizza is sad. Why would anybody think that? I don't know, but Mary thinks that that's the answer, right? Okay. Oh, thank you for the support. Yes. Okay. I'm just going to check my email real quick, guys. Okay. Got an email question. If I didn't get to the school of my choice, would you recommend going to local community college, high transfer rate, or would you recommend going to my second choice and then transfer? Ooh, that's actually a really good question. So yeah. So again, the question was, if you didn't get into school of your first choice, should you go to community, high transfer rate, or would you go to second choice and then transfer? Okay, so that's obviously a very individual-based question, right? Because like, obviously it's an extreme example. Let's say your first choice was Harvard, but you didn't get it, you got into Princeton. Well, go to Princeton, right? Because like, Harvard and Princeton, they're great. But if it was a situation that my first school was my dream school, and my second school, let's say, out of like how much I wanted, a 10 out of 10. My first school I wanted a 10 out of 10. My second school maybe it's 7 out of 10. Then it becomes a more difficult question. But let's just assume that your goal really is to go to the top school of your choice. Oh, let me tell you guys this actually. Either go to the best school, your favorite school. You will love it at this school. Go to that school, or go to the cheapest school. Okay? I'm saying this for like the average American person out there who doesn't want to go thousands of dollars into student debt, right? So if your parents are multi-millionaires, I mean, congratulations, good for you. Then you can go to, really, you can kind of do anything you want with your life and be pretty okay. But if you're like a regular person, either go to the best school you possibly can, or go to the cheap school. I would not recommend, because schools are not cheap at all, even if they're not your top choice. It's going to be anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000. I don't want you guys to be paying that for an experience you're not going to absolutely love. So with that in mind, I would say a lot of the times you want to look more into it. It's always the case, right? As I said the first time, right? You don't want to listen to just common sense. You want to listen to specialized knowledge. So what you want to do is look into your top school of choice. What has a better history? Transfer from four-year institutions or community? Usually it's actually ironically easier to transfer from community. Sometimes the top schools even have relationships with community colleges. For instance, in my case, I was actually talking to the Columbia University admissions officer. And I've been teaching for a very long time. So I was like, do I really need academic history if I've been doing academics for the past 14 years? And she said, yes. You've been out of college for way too long. I would highly recommend you get academic history. So that's why I went to community college for a year, which is actually Bergen Community College, one of the highest rated community colleges in the nation. And Bergen Community College just happened to have a relationship with Columbia that there is actually a separate scholarship for kids from Bergen Community College. So in that case, it worked out wonderfully. So my answer is always really more, I can give you general guidelines, which is probably better, but you have to do the research, right? Okay. I've been teaching 14 years. Okay. And yeah, thank you for telling your parents. And I'm just gonna check one more question. Okay. Okay. Hold on, guys. Let me just screenshot this one question because I do want to leave your identities relatively anonymous. So I don't want to just share my whole screen. Let me snip that out and I'll give a cue to my team to switch to that. Sure. Yep. So that's my screen. Yep. Yeah. So this was a question. And I just realized, right? There is a possibility I could get this wrong, right? Because it's math, I haven't covered it. But if I get it wrong, I'll do like push-ups or something. Let me see. The graph is the contains point A, B, if which one is not a possible value of B. Okay. So, would also have to ask: is this the non-calc section or the calc section? Right? Because if it's a calculator section, you could always just graph it on your calculator and it will make it a lot easier. But let's start with the basics. So I'm not going to explain too much in depth. I will assume we know a certain amount of the basics. If that's not the case, we can correct me in the chat because my team is also checking the chat right now. So this is a cubic function, and it has zeros at +1, -1, -2. I'll label it. Yeah, math is fun, guys. I kind of wish I could teach math more. Because, like, I don't know, is it just me? Does it just make me sound like a nerd? It's kind of satisfying when you, like, solve things out and you get to the right answer. All right, so I have this, and my point A, oh, I think I kind of already solved it, didn't I? Okay, so the answer here is D. Let me just get to why that is, okay? And I'll get to two reasons why this is, okay? So if I knew how to graph this, like I drew this out because I know this is what a cubic looks like, and my point A, which is my x, right, is supposed to be between, whoops, here and here. And what's my B? My B is supposed to be my y value. Look here, the function, I'll highlight it. Between -1 and 1, the function has to be negative, right? So since it has to be negative, my answer here is D, positive, okay? Now, I'll give you two more things. One, if I have no idea what's going on, I have no idea what the heck is going on, pick the one that sticks out. You guys see this as a negative, that's a negative, that's a 0, obviously that's a positive. Pick D. right? Even if you don't understand why, it's a pretty good chance the answer is D, because it's positive. You might not understand why that is the case. Okay, now giving you the final fundamentals, guys. This you just have to have memorized. Cubic functions either are shaped like this, right? Or it's the reverse, they're shaped like that. How can I tell? You see that if I multiply all of these, those will be positive. Positive ones, they look like that. Negative ones, they look like that. Yeah. So this one, if I multiplied it all out, it'd be positive. So I know it's shaped like this. So no matter how badly I draw it, this part has to be below the negative sign. Yep. Hope that was okay. And honestly, I am doing the reading, but if you guys wanted me to explain the math and you guys reach out to me in like a comment or like email, etc., I'll probably get back to you, at least for the moment, right? Because we're below 200 subscribers at the moment. So you guys should probably take advantage. Because like, if I have like, hopefully, you know, thousands and thousands of subscribers, that may be a little bit more difficult to do. Yeah. So I'm going to switch back to my chat too. Stuff. And yeah, thank you for the question as well. And I will try to keep your names like anonymous. Okay. So yeah, I mean, good guess, Danielson, and thanks Diane for the question. No, I wouldn't beat anybody. I don't even know who that is, but because I don't fight people because I'm old. Yeah, my joints are not so good. Oh, hold on, I had questions in the chat while I was doing math. So let me check that. Okay, my thoughts on the rich. They have a lot of responsibilities. And are they living up to them? When a student struggling with time management. Okay, that is such a good question. Okay, this is, no one's going to listen to me. I know you guys are not going to listen to me on this, okay? But I've been preaching this for years. This is scientifically, biologically supported. You guys need to sleep. That's like the key. Okay, there are so many little other details on, you need to make a planner, you need to make sure that you take less classes and things like that. But the number one thing I see kids struggling with, the commonality I see with kids struggling with time management, they don't sleep. Or they sleep in a very, I'll be harsh, in a stupid way. Because you stay up all night, like until like 4 a.m., right, doing your homework because you can manage your time, right? And you go to school and you're just kind of groggy and dead the whole day. So when you come home, you sleep, I'm just going to take a nap. And you sleep until 8. Then now, first of all, you didn't learn anything in school because you're retired. And number 2, you didn't start anything until 8 o'clock. Number 3, you got to eat dinner now too. And number 4, because you didn't learn anything in school, it's going to take you even longer to do all the work, right? And then you stay up all night and it just continues. This continues, okay? So what you need to do is, I know this sounds super unrealistic. You guys need to go, okay. Scientifically, teenagers are supposed to be getting from anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of sleep. There was a study, I've told my students this before, in which they pushed the school start back to 10 a.m. So kids were actually getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and the GPA actually went up by 0.5 points for the whole school. Okay? So if you guys are actually sleeping from 10 a.m. to like, not that 10 a.m., that's stupid, 10 p.m., right? 10 p.m. to whenever you gotta get up for school. That's the key. If you just kind of have faith in yourself and get good sleep and use that good sleep to get things done on time, that's how you get out of that cycle for good. Will you guys do that? I don't really know because I haven't really seen people do that. You're in community, you haven't decided a major yet. Easiest major to get a job, honestly, Daniel, the easiest major to get a job would be, actually the major doesn't get you jobs. It's whoever you know gets you a job, right? So it would really depend on also where you live and etc. And also would also depend on what are you good at, what kind of pay scale are you looking for, yeah? Because you're like, oh, I just want to get a job that allows me to support myself and etc. But well, then so does everybody else, which means competition is going to be hard for that job and so forth. But I would definitely say, oh, this is one thing. Do not, do I want to make an absolute statement? Yeah, I do, okay. This is just, well, it's not an absolute, but try not to major in, for example, econ because you want to get a job. Because you know how many other kids did that? That was the number one point I made today, right? So many kids go, I'm going to major in econ because I want to get a job. Okay, so then if everybody else majored in econ to get a job, when you're applying for a job, you're the same as everybody else. You need some type of specialty. It helps a lot if you have some type of specialty, okay? These days, obviously, a lot of people are like, oh, that's computer science or coding. Something that's overlooked a lot, I would say, is statistics. Any knowledge in statistics, statistical manipulation can be useful in a variety of fields. So obviously in like finance or investment banking, it could be, but even in any type of research, when you have to get scientific results and you have to see, do these results mean anything? What do they mean? That's statistics. So if you're mathematically minded, that could be it. And yeah, it really depends on, it depends on your interest, not your interest, your strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. Okay, I'm kind of behind in the chat. I'm trying to get to Hong's question. Okay. Dan's question and Hong's question. Hong's question is, I'm reading it. How would you weigh the importance of different aspects of college app with each other? Example, GPA. Okay. GPA is the most important part of the application. Obviously, there could be exceptions, but GPA is the highest weighted factor by the majority of colleges. What I mean by exception is like, if you want an Olympic gold medal, GPA doesn't really matter, right? Or if you're going to school for an academic scholarship, then your GPA just has to hit a minimum. But your GPA is the highest. Your standardized test scores, no one standardized test score is better than your GPA. Because your GPA is supposed to reflect your, 3.5 years of work when you're in high school, whereas the test is just a test. However, standardized tests, if you take them across a spectrum of subjects, like AP scores, and I think I told you guys in my last live stream about the CLEP testing, CLEP. And if I show, not only do I have the GPA, or maybe I'm a little bit lackluster in GPA, but I took it upon myself to improve those areas, or work on other areas, and look at all these other tests I took. That can help you differentiate yourself from people who had similar GPAs, right? But GPA is primarily the most important factor. If you were to ask a college admissions officer, they would usually say like 30 to 40% of the application importance is the GPA. Yep. Okay, and then and I started solving math, and Diane, I solved math because the people wanted me to do it. Okay, yeah, sleeping 30 minutes a day is like terrible. Oh, my bad, I totally misunderstood you there, and I just went on. But like, people needed to hear that. They need to sleep more. Time management, the SAT or ACT? Well, yeah, that would depend, right? Whether it's the math, or whether it's the reading, or whether it's the writing on the time management. Honestly, I feel like people... I'm not saying that, especially ACT, which is a super, super fast-paced test, but this is very understandable, but students kind of get overly worried about the time management because when you first start doing the test, especially the ACT, you're probably not going to finish on time, right? Like, I was the type of person who would do the reading, reading is 35 minutes, right? I would do that in like 15 to 20 and just like chill. But when I first did the science, I was struggling to finish on time, even though my reading speed was pretty fast. But that's like really natural when you first start doing the test. So the number one thing I would say is like, unless you've been studying for 6 months plus and you're still struggling with time, don't worry about time yet, right? You're gonna have to invest repetitions into doing the test in order for it to become smoother and more efficient. So that's the number one thing. Don't worry too much about it. Now, if you're 6 months in and you're still struggling with time, then that's a different matter. Then I would have to individually talk about, well, which parts are you struggling with? But I would say that's the main thing. And for the reading, and usually it's more the reading and the science that people have more concerns with. For reading, if you're struggling with the time, and this is going to sound like self-PR, which it is, I would say just watch my videos, right? Because they're all about like the quick and efficient ways to do them. And the reason I say that is, if you're trying to actually read everything and comprehend them and solve the things, it's really by the time you get to junior year-ish, which is when people usually take it, you either can do it because you read a lot when you were a kid, or you can't, right? You can improve by degrees, but you're not going to fundamentally shift your reading ability. And if you're waiting for your reading ability to just kick up, you're going to keep struggling with time. So what you have to do is you have to kind of assess, this is my reading ability, so this is how much I'm going to read. Okay? Okay. So yeah, that's what you want to be doing. And originally, I thought I was going to do like, let's see, I just want to get a easy-ish problem. Okay, two things Daniel and Diana are talking about, like jobs and stuff and stats. No, what I mean by that is, like you can major in econ, for example. But if you majored in econ and minored in stats, you're going to look better than the kid who just majored in econ, was my point, right? Having that specialty, and especially when you get to the job interview stage, when they ask you what are your strengths and weaknesses, you don't have to do all the BS strengths, like, I am a good leader. Like, you don't have to do that. you can actually talk about your technical abilities. Well, I'm really good at this type of regression testing and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, if you actually want to become a statistician, yeah, you would need a master's and above. But I'm looking for anything that can give you a competitive advantage. You just want to graduate college and get a job. I mean, depends really where you live, right? And what kind of industries are nearby. For instance, like, I know some people, right? It doesn't really even matter the degree in certain respects, right? I have friends who have gone into sales departments of various companies, and that's really up to your personality. If you're a people's person and you're good at talking, you're outgoing, you're social, some people thrive off of going into sales and working off a commission. But for some people, that's like too much human interaction, it's too much stress, and they would rather not do that, right? Actually, when I was in high school, I had some people who were graduating, going to 2-year like car mechanic schools, but I would not recommend that anymore, though, because I highly, highly doubt whatever car mechanic technology you learn is going to be relevant in like the next like few decades, not even decade, few years, because like eventually it's already happening. We're going to switch over to electric, so car mechanic probably not. Let's see. But yeah, I have another friend. Like there's no easy job that allows you just like. Okay, if there was an easy job that allows you to just kind of relax and like get paid okay, then eventually everybody would apply for that job, right? And so the competition would go up, and then you wouldn't get paid as much. Let me give one example. The stats thing, right? A lot of guys who do stats, they love sports. And so the guys who get paid 6 figures in Wall Street with their stats knowledge and data analysis, if they want to work for a sports league, they have to take like a 40% pay cut because they got people lined out the door to do those jobs. So there's always going to be something people don't like about your job. That's why it's available, or it's going to be super competitive, right? But there are a lot of fields. If you put in the expertise in training, I have a friend who's doing more like HVAC, like installations, and he's doing great, right? He's like, it's kind of cool actually. He's like a master craftsman now, and he can like just make things happen with his hands, and he's really building up his expertise. That will be useful for like years to come, and it's honestly much more useful knowledge that he has versus like a lot of the stuff you might learn in school that's like, who was the president of whatever country in 1700, right? Oh. Frederick, West Point and military schools? Okay. Opinion West Point. Oh. Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you for the hair compliment. I'm going for a little pineapple vibe, I think. Yeah, I think I like it. Opinion is on West Point. It's kind of a broad question. First of all, West Point is, as you guys know, very, very competitive. I think stats-wise, they might even be harder than any other school to get into. So if you can get in, it's a great setup for success, right? They have the guaranteed track. But in order to prepare for West Point, I would say you really want to look into to be very honest, the connections that it requires. Because in order to get into West Point, you can't just be like, oh, I'm really good at sports and also academics and I have leadership, so I'm going to get into West Point. There are certain recommendations that you have to get in order to get into West Point, right? You have to be able to build those connections to even have a chance to get into West Point. So I would say look into that. If you're like, oh yeah, my family's already set up, I can make that happen, okay? If it's not the case, then you need to figure out how you're going to make that happen. And even that, I wouldn't be too discouraged because let's say that was the case and you need to make it happen, so you did a lot of stuff, but you ended up not getting it, but you can use that kind of storytelling in your college essays overall, right? Whenever it was like, there was this thing I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it, there was an obstacle. So I engineered my own way of doing it. That's what usually the college essays are looking for, right? Yeah. Yeah, easiest job is to have money. That's capitalism, right? Your money, making money for you is the easiest job, right? I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's the reality of it, okay? Okay. Okay, any job that is medical as a biology. Oh, hey, John, I haven't talked to you in a bit. I would say most bio jobs are related to, not most, right? Biology would lend itself to that, although you might need a bit more of a specialty, right, than biology. We are trying to stream on a weekly basis, but I also got to record the quick and dirty videos for you and everything, but we'll get them done. Especially if you guys have as many questions as you have today, then I would want to stream more so I can tell you guys stuff.
Let's see. Right, yeah, thank you, Diane. Yeah, you have to do way ahead. Yeah, there's so much prep and what's it called, connections you have to make, which is also a useful skill you want for life, because that's the exact type of skill that will be very handy for getting you jobs later in life. So that would also be a good practice. John, there's a lot of jobs in the medical field as a bio major. That would also depend. How much more schooling do you want to do, right? Do you want to? I'm guessing you are not thinking about full like med school program because you'd be aware of that. But are you going more into like nursing? Good luck with that, Diego. Can't help you there. I'll go into. Right? Are you going to like nursing, or are you going into PA, physician's assistant? Or there are also a lot of specialties in nursing. You could be anesthesia, so anesthesiologist specialty. There's cardiac. There's so many specialties out there. I would highly encourage you to look them up. One of my friends, she did, I think, cardiac something like heart. Like there's one heart scanning, measuring equipment type of thing. That's not the only thing she does, obviously, but she got specialized in that, and it's been very promising for her. Okay, been studying around 2 months, Frederick. Oh, you're getting over the 1450, 1470 on the SAT. Well, Frederick, is the plateau coming from the reading not going up? Because my first advice is, even though I teach the reading, as I said before, the reading is the hardest to raise. That's why I teach reading, because not many people can do it. But it's definitely the standard answer I'll give to most people. You want to get your writing and math up first, right? And kind of see where you are with that. You're trying to go into nursing or PA. John, you also might want to try, if you haven't, you might have, taking an EMT course and seeing how that works out. Because it is a time investment, but it can easily lead into the PA path as well. And the training you get would be very similar to what you might get in the medical field. You could get a kind of taste for it, right? Writing is the worst for me. Then, yeah, if you want to get over that plateau, hit up Diane, I guess. Yeah, if writing is the worst for you, I'm just going to throw out a guess. That probably means that you did not learn proper grammar in school, which is not an attack on you. I didn't learn grammar in school at all. Thinking back on it, I had to learn grammar when I started teaching 7th graders. So, yeah. Okay. So writing is the worst for me. That's, okay, I'm not going to say that's good, but that's better news than reading being the worst, because writing, there are certain grammar rules that you have to memorize and take in, especially if you've only been studying around 2 months. I am guessing, if you're scoring 1450 and 1470, you're probably reasonably intelligent. And so you have probably learned the grammar rules, but you probably haven't internalized them yet. So if I may guess, I'm not a psychic or anything, you're probably at the stage that when you see the explanation, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I did learn that, okay. But you probably are not at the stage that when you do the test, it naturally comes to you. So if it's 2 months, I would say, this is what I call it. You want to make a wrong answers folder and collect all the answers you got wrong in the grammar and categorize them by what grammatical principle did I mess up on, and just drill yourself over it. Guaranteed. If you do 10 misplaced modifier questions in a row, you'll be pretty solid on them. Okay. Let's see. And Eric Meltz's grammar book. If Diane recommends it, I would also recommend it as well. Yes. Okay. I'll do a question. Okay. That is a lot. Hold on. Which question should I do here? Okay. Scholarly word test number 1. Okay. I think I can do this. Yep. I will do the screenshot, and I think, figure this out. Okay. Let me zoom in on that. Yep. And I have to zoom in again. Okay, I have a screenshot. I got a question to email, because if somebody goes through the effort of asking a question through the email, I should answer it, right? Especially at this stage, we are able to handle all the things that come in the emails. So I'll get to them. Yeah, so those of you who've been studying for a while, you guys might recognize this. This is from College World Test number 1. You guys know the story that says Akira came directly without any mediation. It's about this boy who is trying to get this woman's permission because he wants to marry her daughter, right? That's the background. But I don't want to touch upon the background here because, like I said, I don't want you guys to have to rely on reading really well to answer questions. So number 1, I wanted to go over, and it was also asked in the email, because, I mean, those of you guys who've been in my class, right, and who watch my videos, you guys, well, first of all, you might just remember this question, but you could probably guess, right? I'm not checking the chat, but, like, feel free to guess, like, even if you remember, like, try not to, like, use that knowledge, like, which one of these would be more likely for SAT? Which one of these wordings? I think I gave it like a good few seconds, right? Yeah. So there's a giant insect flying around, that's okay. So, if I know the answer as well, right? I can't just delete the information, but if I were totally guessing, I would take those out. Okay. Why would I take those out? Because, whoops, the highlighter in the switch argues, criticizes. I am adding negative emotion here, okay? Now, does that mean I can't get negative emotion on the SAT? You could get negative emotion on the SAT, but in order for it to be negative emotion, I need proof, okay? So, if I go like, oh, how's John? He's doing terrible. Why? What happened? I would have to tell you why he's doing terrible, right? But he's like, oh, how's John? He's alright. He's like, okay, he's alright. You don't need any evidence if I don't say anything. So the answer here is B. All this says that it's surprising, right? So let's check A. One character argues with another who intrudes on her home. Okay, so if you got intruded, would you be surprised? Yes. So this is surprising and negative emotion, right? Very extreme negative, intrusion and argues. And then same thing with D, we have criticizes. Oh, and we see also the word unexpected. So compare these guys. B just has surprising, excuse me, whereas D says unexpected. It's the same thing as surprising, right? But it adds this additional wrinkle. We don't like wrinkles, right? We don't want to have to justify extra stuff. Okay. So those are out. You may say, oh, Jay, then how would I know whether it's B or C? Honestly, guys, I have never seen anybody pick C for this one. But, so the answer here is B because, yeah, this is why also a lot of the books are not helpful for SAT. If you guys look it up in a book, it'll say, choice C is not the answer because it's not in the text. It's not in the text, that's true, but I want to be able to answer this. It's kind of getting into my own, like, in your own words. What I mean by that is, like, eliminating answers, that's fine. But before I choose the answer, I want to have in my mind what was the answer. So what best describes what happens in the passage? This mother gets asked out of nowhere by a boy she doesn't know, can I marry your daughter? That's B, right? C has nothing to do with the main thought I had in my head about this passage. That's why it's wrong. I don't really want my explanation to be like, oh, it wasn't in the text, right? Yeah, I think that's probably the last email question I'm going to get to. I'll take one last look at the chat. So I'll just swap back to the chat. Yes. My advice for the day. Oh, Frederick, I'll just do a very short response to you. You're taking the SAT on August 27th. My general advice is, like I said, make a collection of the questions you get wrong and go over the same types of questions, number 1. Number 2, do not cram before the day of the test, dude. Just sleep. Okay, I need you to sleep the day before the test. Because your brain takes about 2 hours to fully wake up. Okay? About 2 hours. And so you want to be getting rest before the test. SAT is not really like a memorizing facts type of test. With the studying you do the day before, it's not going to do anything. Just try to relax. The time I got a 2400, right, on the old SAT, which is much more rare, by the way, than 600 do SAT. In my days, it was harder. But I was just playing 2K the day before. My mom kind of yelled at me for that. And then I was like, Mom, if I get stressed and I get things wrong, like, I mean, I wasn't going to do anything. I was a good, obedient child. But yeah. Okay. Then low 1500s? Oh. Okay, Hong, if you're in the low 1500s, I would say it's okay to take it up to 3 times, But after that, I would say move on. Oh, it is not bad to take it more than 3 times. People say this so much it annoys me. Like, colleges don't like it if you take it more than 3 times. They don't care. They really don't care. They just advise you don't do it more than 3 times because they don't think it's a good usage of your time. Yeah. And honestly speaking, if you're scoring the 1500s, like, they know your general like capabilities in reading and math, so it's not going to make that much of a difference in my opinion. So is it better to score higher? Obviously. But if you're going to take it more than 3, I would say stop at 3. Unless, like, there's always exceptions. Like, let's say the first 2 times, like, you didn't do anything, you just kind of took it. But, like, this time you found a new method of studying, you really feel like it'll be different because you're doing things differently, then sure, you can go for it. Okay. Okay. Yes, it'd be, do you get a prize of, you get the prize of knowing you were right, and, I don't know, we'll try to make tote bags too. So maybe if you keep coming to the stream, maybe there'll be some things for prizes. Yes, Hong, that is. So what Hong said right there, right, is also a pretty good way of doing it. Good. Okay. There is no such score as a 983, so you can't bring that up. And I think, yeah, thanks for coming in, guys. Like, today was pretty fun. I enjoy talking to all of you in the chat. And thank you for asking the questions, because not only does it make it's not my job, but what I do easier, but there are probably other people who might be watching that they couldn't work up the nerve to ask the question, or maybe they wouldn't even have thought to ask the question. So since you guys asked, there's more information out there in the world, right? Out there for free, which is like my whole thing. I want as much information, especially about the education process and also your career passions and visions, to be freely available as possible, right? Because are there going to be times that you're like, oh, this is the right way to do things that works out? Yeah, sure. But I would rather you know about as many of the alternatives possible and then make a reasoned judgment about your future, because your future is like literally the most important thing for you, right? Yeah. So thank you for coming in, and thank you for asking all the questions, guys. And we'll be trying to do live streams weekly, hopefully. At the very least, like once every 2 weeks is the goal. I mean, yeah, we'll be on this channel. I like doing this, okay? So come by next time, and if you guys have any ideas, recommendations, suggestions, requests, whatever, for next quick and dirty video, next long and deep video, or next live stream topic, whatever you guys want us to cover, you can email us, or you can just, this is going to be uploaded later, so you can just leave it as a comment on any of the videos, like we get notifications right away. So let us know, and I'm here for the people. You guys are the people. Power to the people. Study every day with SexyJ. You guys know the way, and good night, guys. Bye. Colombia.